Welcome back to 7 Moons Astrology. I'm Sarah Kirby, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about the challenging energies that we've been experiencing astrologically since 2020, but in particular 2021. 2020 was hard, and I think most people at the time were saying, oh, I just can't wait for 2020 to be over and let 2020 come around. And then come to find that 2021 was in many ways even harder than any of us could have anticipated and felt tougher than 2020. And so we were ready for that energy to clear perhaps even faster than we wanted 2020 to be over. First of all, I hate the idea of just wishing away time and trying to rush things along. But there was no doubt that this energy was tough. What was happening in 2021? What did it mean? And what can we do going forward? It was the Saturn-Uranus square. When Saturn and Uranus come together in hard aspect, this is always a noteworthy period in our lives. It creates noteworthy, significant changes. Hard aspect between the outer planets, Saturn and Uranus, occurs only every 11 years. So this isn't an energy that we experience very often. It makes itself known. And it does so in ways that quite often don't really feel comfortable. Saturn has to do with where we need more restrictions and structure and rules and discipline, commitment, responsibility. It works through challenge and hardship, and it puts you to the test. It wants you to slow down, and it wants you to do things in the right and perhaps even traditional conservative way. Uranus, on the other hand, it can't even be more opposite than that. Uranus is about doing things fast. It's about innovation and change and shocking people with radical, original ideas and a new way of doing things. It's about the future rather than the past. It's about what's authentic and rebellious even. It's about pushing against the old way of doing things to usher in a brighter, more exciting future. It's about liberation and freedom. And so all of 2020, we had Saturn and Uranus coming into repeated square. Square is an energy that requires us to take action, and it can bring about feelings of problems and crisis. Certainly this energy made 2020 or 2021 a time of great change in everybody's lives. Just one thing after the other. You thought you had a plan, suddenly it changed. Things came out of nowhere, unexpected circumstances. All the while you were trying to consciously create a reality in your life that felt more aligned. You had identified an area that felt stagnant and stuck, and it was illuminated where you had been constricted by your choices that you made, maybe because of what you thought was right or what society wanted or what you were told, and you were following rules, and suddenly you wanted to rebel against all of that. On the flip side, maybe you were coming out of a period of complete and total rebellion against everything anyone had ever told you to do, and suddenly took a pause and thought, wow, I need to slow down here and perhaps consider the old wisdom that has been passed down. That's Saturn. Either way, something about our lives was out of balance, and we were working to create that balance in our lives through these repeated squares. They came exact in a square 3 times in 2021, and it definitely felt tough. Now things should be feeling quite a bit better. They're out of orb. Saturn and Uranus are no longer in a tight square, but we're not exactly past this energy yet, because these two planets are going to come close together again in a loose square later this year in 2022. I think it will be in October of 2022 that they will be nearly exact in a square again, but not quite as they were in 2021. So the energy won't feel quite as intense, but those same lessons are liable to sort of come back around. And this is important because it's a time of final resolution where we're meant to have completely understood and integrate what these experiences in our lives were meant to teach us. Until the next time when they come in conjunction 11 years from now. So this has got me thinking about the idea of freedom versus tradition and liberation versus temperance. How do we strike the right balance between the two? And what I see people doing in society right now is going on a wild pendulum ride between one or the other. F everything everybody's ever told me. I'm going to do it my way. I don't care. All of these old ideas, I'm done with them. I'm going to rebel against what everybody else thinks and stand in what feels true and free and real for me. That's Uranus. I'm going to do it my way. It's going to be the new way. And all those people who are stuck in their ruts are going to feel shocked. But this is what's true for me. That's Uranus. On the flip side, the other side of that pendulum, the other side of the coin that people are oscillating between, myself included, is the Saturnian way. You have to be careful. You have to be cautious. You have to do it slowly. You have to take great responsibility for the choices that you're making. You have to do it with honor and dignity and duty for those that came before you and those that will come in the future. It's about taking a measured and meticulous approach. It's about building something that lasts. You can't have one without the other. You can't. And that's where the idea of temperance comes in. Ultimately, my message here is that liberation without temperance is just another trap. And tradition without innovation is the same thing, just another trap. So we have to strike the right balance in order to have the most successful outcome today and long into the future from this transit. And we're really meant to be wrapping up with figuring those lessons out by the end of this year, before the two planets separate completely for a long while. So I want to talk about the different scenarios that I see this playing out in my clients' lives, in my friends' lives, in my own personal life. Where are you struggling with these two polarities? And to think about how you can find a middle road. And so everything is energy, right? Everything is energy. And energy manifests into different themes in this reality. One such theme is money. How you make money, how you spend money, what you do with your literal currency, your energy. If you have been on a journey this past year thinking about creating more abundance and prosperity in your life in the way that feels aligned to you, be careful that you haven't completely thrown out what you used to do because it just feels too restricting, and then created a circumstance for your life where you have material insecurity, right? Because then you have to backtrack. You didn't move with temperance. On the flip side, be careful that you haven't, out of fear, stayed stuck in an old reality that you know isn't aligned because you're afraid to take risk. Uranus. You have to move with a measured approach to create change, not stay stuck and not throw the baby out with the bathwater, but a measured approach to change. That's what the highest alchemy of Saturn and Uranus is in this instinct. You don't say to yourself, oh, I have an abundance mindset, so I am going to buy whatever I want because I'm abundant. And I'll just spend on all my heart's whims and desires because I know that the money is coming to me 3 times over. Careful. Careful. Because you have to consider your long-term future. And you have to consider what has value today and tomorrow. Not just now, and tomorrow. That's how you fold in the principle of Saturn effectively. Where does your currency actually reap the most reward? How can you create a new way of opening yourself up to more abundance without leaking and spending on things that are really just a waste because you were feeling super electric about it in the moment? Many of us have had lessons with money in that regard over these transits. Let's talk about sexual energy. Because at this time, I also see a lot of people moving into a beautiful new space of liberation with their sexual energy. We are breaking down old barriers and old traditions and old shameful ideologies about what to do with our sexual energy and how to express it, how to enjoy it, how to tap into it. And this is a beautiful thing, but we have to remember the pendulum swing. Okay? So if you suddenly awaken Uranus to the power behind your sexual energy, you might want to say, I am going to rebel Uranus against all of the tradition Saturn and old ways of thinking and the conservative Saturn approach to how we should manage and treat our sexual energy. And so you let that pendulum swing and you are feeling really free and liberated, and then come to find that it has repercussions. Maybe you overspend your sexual energy in the same way that you might overspend your material, financial energy, and it drains you. And you create all types of problems and hang-ups and circumstances and attachments to people that don't benefit you because you didn't move slow enough, you weren't careful enough, and you were too focused on rebelling against circumstances that quite literally felt like they were harmful and restricting to you. They were too limiting. But you went buck wild and you created other problems, right? And on the flip side, you might be the person who discovered that your maybe too carefree and liberated approach to sexuality, had all of these repercussions that you didn't want, and you were, moving in a way that was dangerous. Or maybe you're someone who's been, too conservative as a result of the way that that's hurt you. And you've been too locked up, and it locked up all the rest of your energy. And so life felt more serious, depressed even, because your sexual energy wasn't free flowing, right? So that's another area of life where we've got that pendulum swing. I'm too closed. I have too many boundaries. I'm too open. I'm too rebellious. Either one of these things can create consequences that we don't want. We have to figure out how to take a measured approach to change. That's how you integrate those energies. It's the same with our masculine feminine energy. Many of us are awakening to the idea of manifestation and creating in our lives from a conscious place by monitoring our thoughts and our inner dialogue and our emotional energy. And so we're trying to find the right balance between a totally masculine approach, right? I'm going to take all this action in my life. I'm going to create all these structures. I'm going to do the work. I'm going to chase after my dreams. I'm going to be driving forward in a very deliberate way. And then we burn out. We get tired. We step on other people's toes. We get in fights. We get in conflict. We put all of this action in the wrong places. Or we're being in our feminine energy way too much, and we're thinking, I'm going to just sit back and receive and be open to the gifts that I know are coming to me and never take action, aligned action when inspired. And then nothing ever gets done. It has to be a balance between the both, masculine and the feminine energies. It comes into every area of life. And ultimately, this is what the energy of the Saturn-Uranus square was meant to teach us in 2021. So now that the orb has broken up, and we're in a much better place where we're not constantly bumping up against all the problems that we essentially created for ourselves and those that came to us to show us these lessons, we have the space to reflect and understand how we want to move forward in a way that honors both the principle of change, Uranus, and the principle of tradition and a cautious approach, Saturn. As these energies come into a square again, not exact, but they're coming close. In October of this year, it's going to be the final point in which we begin to understand how well we have done in these areas. So, I have some other videos on this topic where you can understand where this energy is hitting your chart and therefore what area of life is affected by the energy of Saturn and Uranus in square in 2021 and 2022. But ultimately, you don't even need to know that. What you need to think about is, where am I feeling tired and sick of the old way of doing things and trying to rebel against it and create change and a new way of doing things? And how can I make sure that I definitely do that change? I definitely move forward in that new awakened direction, but I do so in a way that pays homage and does justice to the old way of doing things, maintains a measured, careful approach, and ultimately creates long-term success. And if you're one of those people that is afraid to make the change that deep down inside you know that you've been needing, you have to similarly shed old, strict, serious ways of being and make space for newness so that you can move forward and progress. I don't know. I just felt like I really needed to share that today. I'm seeing a lot of people in life moving through these lessons and coming to a place of much more resolve around them now that the energy isn't in such a tight square. But just continue to be careful, because we're really not out of the woods yet with that energy. And while times are feeling very good due to the Jupiter and Neptune conjunction and all planets direct, we want to make sure that we're still being cautious and careful, yet authentic and innovative in our approach. So, I don't know. I hope that helps some of you out there. Really was getting the call to share that today. So, thanks for joining me for my random thoughts on this energy. I hope you enjoyed. If you like this video, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one with energy.